There are many legends and myths about the gods. Temples were built for them. People brought them sacrifices and gifts to appease them. Most of us consider them a fabrication from a course in the history of religions, but is that really so? Let's see if archaeologists find evidence of the existence of gods. Far from the tourist trails in different parts of our planet, there are structures, the origin and purpose of which are still a mystery. Pompeii, the largest of the Caroline Islands, with an area of 540 square kilometers, which holds the greatest secret, called Nan Madol. These buildings look like strange structures made of the heaviest stone logs, tens of thousands of hexagonal basalt columns. Herbert Rittlinger, in his book Der Molosse Ozean, The Boundless Ocean, suggests that thousands of years ago, Nan Madol was the center of a great empire where the gods lived. To this day, the inhabitants of Kiribati are afraid to visit some areas of the islands, which are considered taboo because powerful spirits once lived here. Stone evidence of god worship is found here and there on the islands scattered in the South Pacific. These structures are called marae, the mystery of which has not yet been solved almost everywhere, and their purpose is still being debated. There is such a sacred place on Marae, even on the island of Tahiti, beloved by tourists from all over the world. On the island of Raeti in French Polynesia, a monolith rises in the center of the marae, which, according to local legends, is filled with mana, the pulsation that can cure diseases called mana. Once upon a time in the distant past, our ancestors did not yet master the art of writing. How could they leave messages for future generations? Where did they have to draw for their own pleasure and to proudly show their creations to their fellow tribesmen? The peoples of the Stone Age found the answer for themselves. They drew carved images on rocks and cave walls. Australia lies far from other countries, and in prehistoric times its native inhabitants, the Aborigines, undoubtedly had no contact with the rest of the world. They created entire galleries of rock paintings, mainly in the area of the Kimberley Plateau in the northwest of the continent. Among the images, there is, for example, an elongated figure with two antennas. There are gods and goddesses with huge eyes and glasses. The natives called them Vondins, mothers of the gods. One large figure lies horizontally. She appears to be wearing a coat. On both sides of the angelic head in figure 68, lines diverge as if they contain some meaning. The petroglyphs of the Native American Hopi simultaneously served as markers for other tribes and history books for the people themselves. The first world, according to Hopi legends, was called Toktela, which literally means endless space. Only Tewa, the creator, existed in him. Hopi ancestors wandered around different worlds until they found refuge on our planet, not far from the village of Arabi in Arizona. Their main law was, "Thou shalt not kill thy brother." The rocks around the Hopi area abound with petroglyphs. There are thousands of them. Often they are located at a height of several meters. Probably the artists erected scaffolding or descended steep cliffs on ropes. Idoa Temple is considered the birthplace of Lord Rama. During the work preceding the construction of a new temple dedicated to this deity, archaeologists discovered the ruins of an ancient sanctuary, columns, as well as the remains of statues of Hindu deities. It is known that earlier there was a temple of Ram Jamabhoomi and later a mosque. One of the main finds is a 1.5 meter lingam, a symbol that personifies the god Shiva, a sign of his male power. In the vast prairies of Brazil, amateur archaeologists often discover prehistoric evidence. Set Cidades is located north of Teresina, between the towns of Piripiri and Rio Lounge. The landscape here is flat and stone walls suddenly appear in front of the traveller. You seem to find yourself in the midst of chaos, like the biblical Gomorrah destroyed by fire and brimstone. Even if the origin of such a strange landscape remains a mystery, petroglyphs are a fact. There are tens of thousands of them here, and from the gods depicted here, we again see halos, rays, and something similar to helmets. Of course, no one will tell you who painted or engraved these figures. However, it is not difficult to understand that prehistoric artists preferred the same motifs as their counterparts from the most remote corners of the planet. Again, we have circles, spoked wheels, suns, squares, handprints, crosses, stars, and luminous beings. In the north of the city Dunedin in New Zealand, about 100 spherical boulders are scattered on the Morokai beach. The diameter of the largest of them is 3 meters 16 centimeters. These giant geodes literally once broke away from the rock, rolled back a few meters, and were left to be polished by daily ebbs and flows. Many of them crumbled from the constant impact of winds and waves. No one can imagine how many such boulders have been carried away by the current and how many have been erased into dust over the past millennia. However, new boulders are still breaking off the rock, as if it were a mother bird laying eggs. The Atacama Desert in Chile, northwest of Antofagasta near the city of San Pedro de Atacama, could be a part of Mars' landscape, dry without a drop of water. The slopes of the hills are decorated with amazing images, figures that look into the sky. It would be extremely hard work for the locals to create these images in the unbearable heat. Among them also could be seen 2 squares with an arrow in the middle that looks like a ladder pointing to the ground. Is this a winged god with a wheel? What are all shapes of rectangles, squares, animals, moreover very impressive sizes up to 20 meters in length engraved into stone? What is the meaning of those squares and rectangles which can only be seen from the sky, as 2 squares located side by side consisting of 12 smaller squares? What could we find at the place where the arrow points? On a September morning in 1985, Mr. Henry Koska, who worked at a diving school in Cassis, east of Marseille, plunged into deep waters near Cape Morges. He was not looking for anything specific, he just wanted to enjoy the beauty of the underwater world. Near a small rock at a depth of 35 meters, Henry Koska noticed the entrance to the cave and carefully swam into it, but did not advance far and returned. A few weeks later, he was diving in the same place, but now with friends Mark, Bernard, and better equipment than last time. The men carefully swam through a 40-meter corridor and emerged above the surface of an underground lake. Their searchlights illuminated an incredible scene. 2 horses were depicted on the western wall of this underwater hall. Bernard aimed the spotlight at the ceiling and saw a goat drawn in black charcoal and covered with a layer of transparent calcite. On the adjoining wall, which was larger than the first, their spotlights illuminated a whole gallery of drawings: bison, penguin, cats, antelopes, a seal, and even some geometric symbols. The age of the paintings is 18,500 years. For the past 5,165 years, counting back from 2012, the same miracle has happened every year in Ireland. It happens again and again in the Corridor Tomb, where no burials have been found. The place is called New Grange, and it is located 51 kilometres northwest of Dublin and 15 kilometres west of the city of Drogheda. Here, in County Meath, in the valley of the River Boyne, the locals long ago built a grandiose monument of ancient architecture. This technical marvel comes from the Stone Age and is not just a stone-protected tomb. Exactly at 9:45 a.m., the upper edge of the solar disk is appearing above the horizon. And at 9:58 a.m., the first ray of the rising sun is penetrating a small gap above the massive slab above the entrance, and, reflected from the rest of the monoliths, fills everything with light. The Great Serpent Mound is located in Adams County west of Portsmouth. This geoglyph is 400 meters long. The snout of the snake seems to stick into the Ohio Bush Creek, although from a height of about 40 meters. The snake's head rests on the highest point of the hilly area, and the body curves like an endless serpentine, turning into a spiral. According to local residents, the Great Serpent Mound is an image of the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. At the bottom of the snake, a grave mound was found with various small bones. They lay in a layer of mica. Mica is a potassium aluminate hydrosilicate found in granite monuments and is an excellent electrically insulating material. The most interesting thing is that in Tithouacan, a few meters from the Avenue of the Dead, was found an underground chamber protected by mica. Tonga is a small island nation rarely visited by tourists. This is a piece of paradise with pristine nature, unique flora and fauna, but also has the colourful originality of traditions. The capital of Tonga is called Nuku'alofa. Tourists never cease to admire the various temple terraces, several stories high, located on the main island of Tongatapu. These places are still considered sacred to this day. The largest monolithic structure in this complex is Ka'amonga, stone gates through which the god Rongamay will ceremonially walk sometime in the future. His return is awaited, as well as the coming of other gods. According to legends, in ancient times the gods lived next to people, walked with them on the same land, and breathed the same air. And of course they chose special places of their own. We have not told you about all of them, and not because they do not exist, but because they have not yet been found. Subscribe to the channel, press like, and you will know exactly where the gods lived.